We still have a minute, so that's good. It's all gonna work out. It's all gonna work out. We got this.
It is. I prayed so much for this, so it's really gonna work out.
It better work, right?
Yeah.
We gotta pass it in the house, so it better work.
Yeah.
Mary Kim and I are the congregation, so this thing has to work.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna click the button now. Live. I'll click live now.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
And let's share. We can. Okay.
Are we
good?
Abby?
Yeah. Can you all hear me? Is it good? Are we good? All right. That sounds fine. We are good. Welcome, everybody. My name is Abby from AbbyGlobalVentures.com. This is our biggest day, Innovate 8.0. I am thrilled and grateful for the gift of life, the gift of an opportunity to share what is in our heart, in our soul, and what is the future looking like for small business owners, anybody with ideas, or anybody who wants to be able to build not only a legacy, but to build and support others. So Innovate.0 was born or came to us across by having to connect. So Innovate. Is it slagging a little bit, you guys?
There was a moment of echo, but it's fine now.
Okay, yeah. If the echo comes, it's just gonna go. So our story was, we wanted to make sure that we can be able to integrate our skills, our craft, our businesses that we love so much, be able to integrate all of those in one platform. And we just didn't know what to do. 2020, when the world shut down and COVID hit, we needed to know where to go, how to go about taking care of our patients, how to go about running our businesses, whether that is landscaping, whether your business was salon, whether it was healthcare like some of ours. We wanted to know, how do we still keep running our business where there is social distancing and you cannot be able to gather together as a community and even gather together with your clients. And that's why we came across this word, and we thought, what about we bring innovation? Innovation means building something new. Innovation means using the tools you have to create something that can build and can birth a stream or a highway that can be able to connect what you have with technology. And that's how Innovate came across. And we decided we are going to be able to educate, number one, entrepreneurs, what is available to them as far as technology in the market. We also wanted to bring awareness that even in the middle of pandemic, you can still build your business, you can still grow, you can still thrive, and there is another way to build your business. So especially for service-based industries, we wanted to let you know there is another way to build your business. There is another way to thrive in the middle of pandemic. Because two things happen when we have pandemic. There are people that thrive and benefit from it because they position themselves well, because they are aware of how to marry their services with technology and thrive. But also the others that close their doors because we were supposed to think on our feet and be able to thrive in the middle of pandemic. And if you know any business owner, if you're a business owner yourself, I want you to take a pen and paper. I want you to share and invite others, because we are going to give you very valuable information about what success is, the future of small businesses, technology, and above everything else, how to protect your assets, how to protect your business, how to protect what you have worked so hard for. so that you can leave a rich legacy, so that you can create resources and an environment and create jobs for other people. This Innovate Conference is for leaders, is for business owners, is for innovators, is for people that are wondering, how long do I have to stay in this job? And I have this amazing, massive idea, and I can build something. This conference is for existing business owners, especially those of you, the whole week you've been reaching out to me, asking questions about, I have my business, I cannot be able to find my documents, I'm not able to find my staffing, how do I look for staff, how do I put my documents together? My God, how do I manage my team? How do I manage my clients? We're going to show you there is another way of success. When you bring your service-based business, when you bring your ideas and integrate them with a very simple yet effective technology. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And then when you birth that baby, you want to protect that baby. And that's why we have an attorney in the house who's going to talk about how to protect your assets, how to protect what you've worked so hard for, and how to remain, how to create a boundary. I don't know what the word is, but how to remain connected to your business, but yet making it a different asset. Your business is here and you're here and you're not mingled together, especially from creditors, from legal battles that we have to fight every day. How to keep your business separate from your own personal things, how to keep your business separate from your family so that everything doesn't go shutting down on you. So again, welcome. This is Innovate 8.0. My name is Abby. I'm going to be your host tonight. And I'm going to introduce my panelists tonight. I have the best of the best. I kind of did not give them a choice. I kind of told them, you're joining in. And they were like, what is this? And I told them, you're coming in because I wanted to bring you the best of the best in the industry. And I want to start with Steve Walters, who is my friend, the most amazing seasoned attorney. He is also a pastor. So he is my friend who's extreme in both worlds. He is an amazing lawyer who can protect you and everything you built and created. But he's also a pastor. He can literally pray for you and encourage you. So those two things, your girls, people like me, I need everything. So I need him as a pastor. I need him as an attorney. I also need him as a friend. And he is an estate and trust attorney. He does most of the amazing work. He makes sure your business is protected, your children are protected, your assets are protected, and in the language that makes you be very separated from your entity, from a business as an entity. And I definitely want him to give a much more introduction of himself. He's done so much work for us. So I'm talking from a personal experience. I didn't know that you can have a trust that doesn't 100% protect you. And I want him to talk about that. I want him to tell us the language that we need to use so that our trust can make sure our businesses are fully protected under this umbrella of the trust. So I'll let him talk about all those things because this is what he does for a living. And this is what he protects business owners and their assets for people like you and I. We also have Jeremy Grady, who has expansive experience from working to Fortune 500 company, from PAD to Microsoft to Boeing to very high profile positions in the government that we can't talk about because we don't want to get in trouble. And he has over 25 years of experience in technology. He's done it all from security to nonprofit, which is a company called PAD, to intellectual ventures. He has a very massive experience. And today he's the CEO of CoactiveSoft, a software company that supports small business owners like you. It positions you and I to look stronger, to look better, and to literally show up like a Fortune 500 company. When small business owners like me hears about technology, we right away, you're like, I cannot afford it. But CoactiveSoft, with the help of the CEO who's here tonight, has made it so efficient and effective. And what I'm excited about, especially if you're in healthcare or you're in small business owner and you're looking for staffing, he has created something we call Uber staffing that I am super excited about because I started using it today. and I am excited about it. You can see it because staffing is a nightmare at this season because our world is short staffed with workers, and we are, that is a pain that we're suffering through. Then we have my girl, Mary Kim, who I actually dragged into this. Mary Kim is a consultant with Coactive Soft. She is also serves on a very high level in a IT company as an executive. She's also done for 25 years, been in the world of integration, migration, and everything IT. She is going to talk to small business owners about what is the future of small business owners, what you should be looking for. Where do you need to invest right now as a business owner as far as technology so that you can position yourself if you're hit again with another pandemic or for your growth? You're not going to be able to focus in your business growth if the foundation are not well streamlined, if the foundation are not strong, if they're not reinforced well. And Mary Kim is going to talk all about the future of small business owners. You and I, this is the information that you and I need. And we also have other guests that are going to be asking a lot of questions. I want you to post your questions right here on Facebook, right here on Instagram, and right here on Zoom. If you registered with us, I want you to ask your question. This is an opportunity where you have billion-dollar minds coming together for an hour and a half, answering your question and educating you as a business owner, the things you really don't know. And if you know about them, you don't know how to structure your business. You don't know how your success looks like when you're not protected. You don't know how you can grow and take more clients if you don't have the right technology. So I do want you to share in every platform that has small business owners, share with people that you love, take copious notes, ask them questions. We are here for you, Innovate 8.0. And we are going to invite my friend, Steve Walters, to come and introduce yourself again, my friend Steve, and jump into it. We have so many questions for you, so go for it.
All right. Am I muted or not?
We're good. We can hear you.
Okay. Then I need to share my screen. So I need to go to one other thing because I don't see your screen anymore.
Okay.
And Suzanne, if you need to walk over here, I don't want to end this. I'm glad you see the screen. Let's see. I'm getting my technical help right now. We've tried to handle all this.
Now you're gonna go to the Zoom camera.
That's okay.
There's no Zoom
We can
camera.
see you. We're good.
Over here? Oh, the Zoom camera there.
And share screen
And then hit share screen, which is
on the Zoom.
on the Zoom. Oh, I just got to get this left or right. And I want this one. All right. Do you see a screen?
We do. You're good, Steve.
Protect your assets. Is that right?
Yep. Protect your
Okay.
assets. Yes, you're good.
Excellent. Okay. What I want to do today, let's see, is to get into how do you protect your assets. And I've got a bunch of objectives because I do want to touch on what basic estate planning is because we all need that. I want to cover what living trust can do and not do. And then I'm going to get into the types of business entities. And there's certain things, even without creating an entity, that protect you, like the homestead exemption and stuff like that. But then we're going to talk about limited liability companies, corporations in and outside of the US. And we're going to talk about how do you choose trustees, because most asset protection involves trusting someone else to manage your money. And then we'll talk about how do you work with our firm if you choose to do so. So
Yes.
it's working, it's going along. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, this isn't a detailed discussion of estate planning. I've done estate planning for 25 years. I'm happy to do that. I can always talk about wills and trusts in more detail. This isn't going to talk too much about your income taxes. Check with your accountant on those things. I mean, I know the rules on revocable versus irrevocable trusts, but in general, you want to check with your accountant when you create entities. The attorneys, we create them, but then the accountants help you comply. This isn't going to be talking about charities. I did go to seminary before law school. I'll tell you more about that, but I'm not going to talk today about how do you provide for your loved ones. That would be a whole nother workshop. And I have no crystal ball on what the law will be in the future. I will say the whole Biden plan was going to get rid of a lot of what I'm talking about today. and then they didn't. So you're free to do all the planning currently. And if you want to see about advanced estate planning, if you are single and your state's north of 2 million, or you're married and you're north of 4 million, you probably need to do some larger, well, some different plans, not just the basic will or trust. So if you want, you can look up on our website, walter.com. You can go and use this, take a screenshot of this, take a picture. So you could type in the code and then you could just download and watch a webinar on advanced estate planning. Okay, why asset protection? Okay, lawyers, doctors could be sued, right? If you run a care facility in the healthcare, you can be sued. Real estate owners can be sued because of slip and fall or accidents, right? I saw in the paper yesterday how the city of Seattle was just, you know, they killed someone. The police killed someone, and then the city was liable for $3.5 million. So, I mean, bad things can happen in your residence or in your business, and you can be sued for that. I don't know why I have choice of charities there. That doesn't really belong. Divorce, that can happen, right? Divorce does happen. It's almost 50% of the time. And a lot of times people just say, look, I want to be careful. I worked so hard to build this business. I don't want anyone to just take it away. That last line there, that you must establish something before a cause of action. That doesn't mean before you're sued. It means before the slip and fall happens, before the violation happens, before the car accident happens. So you really have to do it when you have no creditors. You can have a potential creditor, but no event has happened. If an event's already happened, it's too late. It's fraud for an attorney to help you try to shield your assets. There's some things you can do, you know, where you can choose to a state like Florida, like O.J. Simpson did. He went to Florida because of their homestead exemption. But for the most part, we're talking about how to protect your assets before anything bad happens. Does that make sense? And if you have questions, I think Abby or Chris or someone's going to monitor that, and you can interrupt me. As far as my background, I'm an Eastern Washington kid. I grew up where the sun shines a lot. I came over to school here where it's rainy, double majored in English and religion at Seattle Pacific University. Then I went back to Princeton Theological Seminary because I thought I want to be a pastor or a teacher. And I worked in a church. I actually met my now wife. She wanted me to drop out of seminary and everything like that, but I wasn't sure. I was figuring out my life and my faith. And I just didn't feel a sense of call to the full-time Christian ministry. I have a brother who's a pastor, and that's great. That's great for him. But I just didn't feel a sense of call. And so I wanted to be of help to families and be of counsel. And so I went to law school. And in law school, you study everything, you think really hard and argue really hard. And I got lots of training in different fields. I did PI work, I did family law, I did PI packages back when the Kingdom was around, you know. None of that, I didn't like any of that. But then I did family law, so divorce law. I did that when I got out. And my own clients were worse than opposing counsel. It's not fun to be through the battles. And Abby's laughing. Glad you can laugh now. It's a mess. Observe what can happen when people die or divorce. It's messy. Okay. So I went to another law firm and I started dabbling in wills and trusts and things like that. And then my mother-in-law died. Now her husband was a dentist in Wedgwood. Paul Allen was his patient. They did well. They had a condo in Sun Valley. They had assets, a toy store, a building, their home. I mean, they had good assets and they had a will, but they didn't know what you do when someone dies. And in Washington, many people think that you have nothing to do because we're a community property state. And that's totally false. It's not false that we're a community property state, but it's false that there's nothing to do. So I helped the family that I knew through the legal maze of probate and funding a credit shelter trust and, you know, filing the form to tell the IRS everything they own, a 26-page schedule. So I helped the family I knew through a really difficult time. And then I realized, my gosh, I've got the mind of an attorney, the heart of a pastor. That's estate planning. So I went to an estate planning firm and then I launched my own firm. And I've been doing that ever since. So that's my background. And I've been married 30 years and I have 2 daughters. One of them is married and works IT, like a bunch of you IT people here. Her husband teaches music at Bellevue Christian School. My older daughter, she was a rower at University of Washington, and she works for Fellowship of Christian Athletes. She runs the whole east side here.
Oh, wow.
Doing a big fundraiser where she's walking 30 miles in a day on the 18th of December. My law firm's in Bellevue. I've got a couple of attorneys here and staff. All we do is estate planning. So that's plenty of background on me. Was that long enough, Abby?
No, that's good. You're good.
My background. So again, to look at the agenda, I'm going to at least define estate planning, and then I'll talk about trusts and homestead. You've seen this. I'll just get into it now.
Yeah.
So the first part is general goals. Everyone wants to, have some sort of protection. And I like this quote: "Nothing in life is certain but death and taxes." We always feel like that's the case, right? But then Will Rogers says, at least death doesn't get worse every time Congress meets. Sometimes when the laws change, they say it's the Full Employment Act for CPAs or attorneys. Well, to get more practical, most of our clients have a bunch of concerns. No government involvement, little or no taxes. They don't want creditors and predators fighting over their estate, let alone their kids. And then they want to pass on some values and wisdom, so.
Mhm.
And avoiding nursing home costs. People want to live at home if they can, but then they need care. So, we help design plans. Estate planning is about life planning, incapacity, making sure the state doesn't say who makes your choices. And then at death, going to the right people and organizations. So you can kind of see this growing pyramid. And this is a great definition. Hey, Steve, I want to be in control of my estate as long as I'm able. If I become unable to manage my estate, I want to be the one that designates who manages my estate for me without court intervention. Following my death, I want things to be as easy on my loved ones as possible. And then I want my estate to pass to the people and organizations the way I want, when I want, how I want. And I want a smooth administration of my estate. I don't want fighting, right? And finally, I want there to be an absolute minimum of conflict, delays, court costs, and though I love you, Steve, attorney fees. So there you have it. It's a definition that involves life and death. Now, to do full estate planning, you may need lots of tools we're going to talk about today. In general, the living trust is the foundation. It might be that you do a will as your foundation, but if you have a large enough estate or you want more asset protection, you may develop like the ILIT, the Irrevocable Life Insurance Trust, or you do the Asset Protection Trust or the Family Limited Liability Company or the S Corp or something. So, a couple of things about trusts. A trust is something you create while you're alive. There are trustor, trustee, and beneficiaries. So married couples, they're both. My wife and I, we have a trust. We are the trustees. We list backup trustees, my parents, then my brother, and some others. We don't list trust companies. We're, of course, the beneficiaries, but so are our children, our future grandchildren, our charities. We do a lot of things in our trust. Okay, so it's basically you've got this position, and then what do? You move assets into a container. You take your assets. I like this quote: don't put your trust in money, put your money in trust. People get in a lot of trouble by owning assets in the wrong name and going through court while they're alive. So a trust is just a way to kind of move assets into the container. So we can put our house in Kirkland. It's in our trust. My wife's parents have both died now. So we own part of a condo in Sun Valley, Idaho, and it's in our trust as my wife's separate property. So a trust can own joint, separate, community, whatever you want. If you're single, of course, it just owns your property. It can own most things. It just can't own retirement funds.
Let me ask you this, Steve. Somebody's asking me on my other phone. Can you have different trusts for kids?
Sure.
Like she's a single mom and she has a son and a daughter. Can they own different trusts, or does it have to be a family trust?
No, there's lots of different kinds of trusts. You can have a trust that when you die, it splits into a trust for a son and a daughter.
Okay.
You can go there. That's a testamentary trust. You can have a trust in a will, and then it's during court, during probate, that you fund or you transfer assets. You can have a living trust that just has containers for the kids or the grandkids.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Thank you.
A living trust is the same as you. Tax-wise, the IRS doesn't care. You don't tell the state of Washington. It doesn't change the basis of any value. And then when you're alive, it's fine. When one dies, it avoids court. And when both die, it avoids court. So just get you organized, all right? Now, I want to kind of jump to taxes. For married folks, the concern is, oh, what if I have north of $2 million? You know, the taxes, we have the highest state estate tax in the nation. We go 20%. And then the federal one, you know, 40%. So for a married couple, you can use a trust and you can double the exemption. So here's the current rules. Washington, right up top, 2 million and change. So 2,193,000. If a single person dies in Washington with 1 million more than that, 3,193,000, they have to pay $150,000 because it starts at 15%. Make sense? It's kind of
Yes.
pricey. The federal was 1 million, then it went to 5. Trump doubled it, and then it's kind of growing. And so it's 11.7. It's never been so high. But by law, it automatically goes back to the 5 million plus inflation. So we guess that's going to be 6 or 6.5 million when we hit the year 2026. So each year, a lot of people are thinking, I better gift some of that large amount before we have a less amount. For married folks, what happens is you can split the estate. So I took Homer and Marge Simpson, look up top, they own things other than their IRA. When one dies, I call this AB planning. We have above ground, we have below ground, right? Like above and below, okay? Let's say the wife lives, she still has half the assets,
Mm,
okay?
okay.
But the decedent, what we do is we put it into an irrevocable trust that makes sure that husband gets his $2 million exemption or his $11 million exemption. And we can draft these so they pay income to the survivor for the rest of their life. But if the survivor hits a busload of lawyers, anything in the survivor's trust is totally susceptible to creditors because they're the trustor, trustee, beneficiary. They're all three people.
Yes.
On the husband's side, the trustor died. So there's a different trustee and beneficiary. So now you have asset protection. So the family and marital trust, they're just names. It could be a credit shelter exemption equivalent. They are protected from creditors. And then when the survivor dies, both halves can go to the children, the grandchildren, the charities, but now you double the amount that you pass free of taxes.
So let me ask you this, Steve. So assume somebody passes away. Is there a way you can help them put a trust together that has the language that protects their assets that they brought into the marriage? How does that work? If I get married today and I have a house and then we buy another house together, if that person passes away, how can my house that I came into marriage with be protected by my trust?
Well, the best way to protect things going into a marriage is a prenuptial agreement.
Okay.
You can also do a separate property, but it's really, if you own it, you control it, there's no asset protection. You can kind of keep others from getting it, you know, in a marriage or divorce, but there's no way to create protection from creditors if you own it. When someone dies, you can protect it from creditors. So generally, it's very easy to protect children, grandchildren, others. It's harder to protect yourself. And that's why a trust, at least a revocable trust, doesn't help you with creditors while you're alive.
Okay, makes sense. Makes sense. Because people don't always know until trouble hits and calamities happen. And right now with COVID, you just never know. If there is any time to protect anything, you have is now.
Yeah.
And people
This is
need
like
to be aware.
foundational. I realize our main focus is asset protection, but I wanted to kind of introduce this. There's pros and cons of trust. I love them. They're really good. They're a little
Okay.
more work to cost to set up and all that. You may want a will plan, but then it's less cost now, but it's a lot more, you know, on death, people can go after it. It's in court, you know, but most people need a base plan, right? A base plan is an estate plan. You should do it if you have, especially if you're married or if you have children.
Yes.
But I want to move on to how do you protect from creditors? Obviously, you should have a liability policy, right? You should have an umbrella policy. But they changed the law so that now instead of a mere $60,000 being protected from the home, and then it went to $125,000, now it's a really good protection. You can protect the first essentially $250,000 from creditors.
Right.
So if they come after you during your life, that first bid is protected from creditors. And then if you have a mortgage on top of that, then someone's probably not going to go after your house. It's not a very attractive thing to be in third position.
Yes.
The IRAs that people have are protected up to $1 million in our state, and the 401ks is much larger than that. So
Mhm.
that's without even paying an attorney to do fancy tools. You have protection. By the way, the homestead exemption there, it would be less if you're out of King County. It's based on the average median price of a house.
Okay. And does this depend on any state people live in?
Oh, no, every state's different. And see, in Texas, you can exempt 1/2 acre. So a 1/2 acre in downtown
Oh.
Dallas or Houston's worth millions. And when we had a $125,000 exemption, OJ went to Florida because Florida had a huge homestead exemption. So even though he was liable, they were able to exempt some things. So what about business entities? This is a long-winded chart. I'm not going to even read it all. I want to mainly say, take a picture of it or whatever, but anything on the left, the sole proprietor and the general proprietor, zero asset protection, zero. You want to just get rid of those. Those don't help you.
Mm.
My father-in-law did 40 years of dentistry as a sole proprietor. You would never do that today. You just would never do that today. But there's a chart if you want to compare these things. So like I said, sole proprietor, you're just doing a business. You can have a business plan or not, but there's no entity. Nothing's registered essentially with the state. Limited liability companies, you are forming an entity.
Mm.
It doesn't have to be a corporation. It's a company. Corporations, there's normal corps and there's C corps. We'll talk about them. So even though there's some advantages for sole proprietorship, it's zero asset protection. No one, unless you have a small art company, you'll never be sued. You know, but if you have any liability or any assets, you would never want to be a sole proprietor. Anyone have a
Wow.
question about that? It just, if you wouldn't want to do it. Same thing with a general partner. That just means that a bunch of you are in business together. It's even worse. If all of us that are on this screen here had a general partnership, if Abby were sued, they could take my interest and Jeremy's interest and Mary's. You know, all of us are liable for each other. It's terrible.
Oh, wow. We have a quick question here from Tabitha. She's saying, is there an income or revenue threshold where you would think about a living trust versus a will?
Oh, okay. That's a great question. It's not the dollar amount size of the estate that dictates when you should do a trust versus a will.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're married and you have north of 2 million, you say you have $3 million, it probably makes sense to do a trust because one trust can avoid 2 probates because you have to do tax planning. So if you're north of the 2 million as a couple, yeah, you should go to a trust. But for a single person, it doesn't matter if you have 10 million or 2 million, a trust doesn't save you a dime in taxes.
Oh, wow.
So the issue is, are you trying to protect the next generation? Do you have real property? Would your probate be expensive or not? Some people just for privacy want to trust, even if it costs about the same as a probate. So there's a lot of factors.
Wow.
I'm going to save time, skip general partnerships. You don't want one. Okay, a limited liability company. I think they've been around since about 94. They've been around a long time. You create it at the state level, and it essentially gives you pass through, you know, the entity, it flows through to your own taxes, and it's taxed like a partnership, but you can elect to be taxed as a corporation and jump through some hoops and be taxed as an S corp. If you're going to make a lot of money, say north of $100,000, you want to be taxed as an S corp because you can shield some of your income taxes.
Okay.
Limited liability companies are very popular. Pass through, easy to create. The members aren't personally liable. There's no restriction on the number of owners. You know, it could be 2-3 people, a family. It could be 200 people.
Mm.
Very flexible. Sometimes someone has money and someone has expertise, and you just deem the ownership to be whatever percentage you want. One of the things to keep track of, if you have an LLC, you should once a year write notes, and this isn't in my notes here. You need to kind of do a written statement that there have or have not been changes to your initial agreement, because oral agreements now are valid. So you don't want someone saying, ooh, we agreed on something, and then there's a breakup and now you have to pay out your owner. So work with an attorney and at least once a year, have a statement. We made no modifications to our written agreement. So you have to do that. And even though there's some disadvantages in creating one, I mean, it's just well worth it, right? It's
Yeah.
if you have a real ongoing business, the cost to create a limited liability company is about the same as costing a corporation, about the same. So
Okay.
C corporations tend to be big companies, you know, Microsoft and Boeing, they're all C corporations. And the problem is they pay taxes at a corporate level, and then when it distributes income out, it also pays again. So it's called double taxation.
Okay.
So that's not so good. If you're trying to raise money and go public, often you do C corporations and things like that. I don't know what that meant. S corporations are a corporation that flow through to the individual. My law firm is an S corporation, so I need to pay myself a reasonable salary, right? But as the owner, I'm taking certain risks and I get certain benefits. So I could pay myself what an attorney of my experience would get, but I don't have to pay myself all in income. I can have a bunch of stuff coming through and I take a distribution and it's taxed differently. And that means I save on FICA and costs like that. It still has the same creditor protection,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't have different classes of stock, and it has to be a fairly small company. And you can't own LLCs in it. So a little bit of the comparisons, I would just completely ignore the sole proprietorships. You just don't want to deal with them at all.
Yeah.
LLCs versus corporation, that's kind of the big issue. How do you want to do it? Kind of depends on what your goal is. Forming them, it's very little cost. Like the actual cost at the state level, it's about $200 to create a, you know, articles of formation or things like that, or certificate of formation. Usually you'll pay an attorney and they may charge from $1,500 to $5,000. Some accountants do it as well. You can have them last a certain number of years, or they can be perpetual. Is there any questions on corporations? Because I want to get to the other stuff.
Okay, just get to the other stuff. I think I have some other questions for something else, but just go ahead.
Okay. It's fairly easy to create them, and I think that's enough on that. Pros and cons. Let's get here. Let's go to irrevocable trust. Okay, if you aren't all three people, you can have asset protection in a trust, right? If I formed a trust and I had Jeremy as my trustee, and then I had my children as the beneficiary, I've split all three. Sometimes you just need to split two, but that's a way where you can get asset protection. And it varies by state.
Yeah, a quick question. What do you suggest for people that are in partnership? They're 4 people in business and they want to make sure that not only the business is protected, but individually they are protected.
Yeah, so that would be either a corporation. The corporation is going to have more ongoing yearly minutes and meetings and rules and compliance. An LLC would be easier. It's really wise to still doctor everything with, you know, your records, paper trail things. But LLCs are simpler to maintain. You just pay one form each year and it's legit.
Okay. That's helpful.
Okay. So an individual that's got more than 2 million, or a couple with more than 4 million, may want to form an irrevocable trust and then have someone manage it on behalf of the children. And then you get out of the estate taxes. If you're doing irrevocable trusts, you want to be very careful who the trustees are, who's managing, right? And you may want a trust protector. So a trust, this says there's a bunch of assets you can put in a trust and stuff like that. The warning is never put retirement funds in a trust. 401k and IRAs, don't have them in a trust because it would cause an income tax. It's okay to have the beneficiary be a trust, but never the ownership.
Oh, wow.
Choosing a trustee, you want someone that's honest, reliable, a good communicator, they're unbiased, they're experienced, they understand your kind of assets. You don't want to list a sister who has never even worked. She's been, if you have two businesses and an LLC and you're managing rentals, you want someone, and maybe your sister or your brother does that, but sometimes you need a professional or someone that just understands your kind of assets. You don't want someone that's biased. You don't want someone that is needy of your money and they're tempted to do things with your assets for their benefit. A trust protector is the back door. You do a trust, you do some document, and if the law changes or if the beneficiaries change or something, life happens, how do you go back in and change an irrevocable trust? You can't unless you have a trust protector. So for many of my clients, when I do revocable trusts and irrevocable trusts, my law firm is the trust protector. We can be brought in by the acting trustee to do a surgical amendment or a change. Or after the parents die and the kids are there, if there's a lawsuit, they can ask us to be the trust protector. That's a really helpful tool. A lot of firms don't do that. I'm a member of a national organization, so I get the wisdom of people in 48 of our 50 states, and we all share ideas and forms. All right, we're kind of nearing the end. Let's talk about jurisdiction. So the fun stuff is domestic and offshore trusts.
Mm.
And again, if you just have a business and you're not over the taxable amount, you probably don't want to jump out and do this. But the more wealth you have, the more you want to jump through hoops to protect more things. So limited liability companies in Washington and corporations and trusts, I think you kind of know what Washington could do. We're fine, we're okay. In general, some states like Texas and Nevada have stronger LLC rules. They're more quick to change them when the law changes, but we're probably fine. But when you start choosing irrevocable trust locations, Alaska is a really good spot. We got the Northern Lights there. South Dakota is a good spot. And some states, the trust can last longer. Our state, you can have a trust last 150 years. That's great. That's the life of a child and a grandchild. That's a long time. But in some states, you can go 999 years. Or in Alaska, it's perpetual.
Mm.
So you may want to choose another state if you have a large amount of assets you're trying to protect. But sometimes it's even better to go offshore. And I'll explain that. Now, here's kind of the certain well-known spots that are good. The main difference of domestic onshore versus offshore is the charging order or the things like that. So the Achilles heel, I'll get to that. So the advantage of a domestic trust, you're doing it in the US, initial setup costs are still, they're significant. It's north of 10 grand. There's yearly maintenance, but it could be pretty minor. It might be $500 a year or $1,000. It's not tremendous. Local trustees, reduced filings. Okay, the cons, the Achilles heel is there's this thing called full faith and credit. So if you get some judgment in one state, but then they yank you to another state, sometimes states will honor certain portions, but other portions, they may be more lenient towards the creditor. So you don't really even know, just because you won a lawsuit in Washington, can they collect in another state or can they retry it? So there's a lot of forum shopping, jurisdiction shopping. So that's the concern. And when you go offshore, it's the strongest protection for sure. There's no full faith and credit. They have no treaty with the US. In fact, if you sue someone in the Caicos, they may jump and say, oh, we decided we're going to move to the Turks Islands, or they jump it around, and it's very expensive. The plaintiff can't collect a contingency fee if they win. They have to front the money. The statute of limitations is short, but it's big costs. You're not going to do it to save, $500,000. And if it's going to cost you $30,000 to set up and then $2,000 a year, or $5,000 a year to maintain, but it is the strongest form. So any question about that?
So how do you can you protect, I'm getting a question here. Can you protect your assets that are like in Kenya? Can you have a trust here that can protect the assets that are like in Kenya, outside the country, international assets?
Yeah, it kind of depends. I mean, even living trusts, I've done living trusts where I had real property, dirt in New Zealand controlled by a US trust. So that's acting, can you have a trust work cross jurisdictionally? But your question is, can we protect assets that are in other jurisdictions? You have to look at that jurisdiction. I think that as long as that jurisdiction, you make the money, it's in a brokerage account, and you move it to one of these offshore havens that does not have a treaty with that country, then the answer would be yes. But I don't know if that country has this rule that they can pull things back. If there's a treaty that they have, then, and I don't know all the countries.
Okay, okay, but so it's possible.
Right.
If we have, okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know. Okay,
Let me just talk about how to work with our firm, and we'll just happy to answer questions, or we can listen to other panelists, and I'll hang around.
okay,
Okay. Working with our firm, we give free initial consultations. But kind of the ground rules, I don't want to sit there and write down the name of you and your kids and ask about your assets. I will send a questionnaire because I want you to be organized. And then when we meet, I ask you a lot of attorney-client privilege questions. You know, I want to know your goals and what you're trying to accomplish and stuff like that. And then we quote a flat fee. And for many of our documents, we could be an agent. If it's a revocable plan, we don't charge to be a backup potential agent. You know, we could be hired or not be hired. But if we're doing your LLC and you want us to do your yearly reporting and all that, then there would be a fee.
yeah.
So I would love to just ask you this question. Is your business plan or your estate plan, is it up to, you know, is it meeting your wishes? Hopefully you don't have that little genie bottle. You hope it works. You hope it works. Does your plan minimize cost? Does it protect your assets, minimize tax liability, maximize control? If you're not sure, then come talk with us. You know, I don't have a link to a questionnaire, but I would trust Abby. You know, they'd come to our law firm, and you know, we'd be happy to set up a time. Probably not till January. We're pretty busy right now, unless you have a pressing need. Thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. One more question. How would you advise a brand new couple buying a second home? They have an existing home, they have a second home. Can they put them together in different trusts because they're married and they probably want to use one as an investment? Yeah.
Okay. You can own multiple properties in one trust. But again, it's a matter of asset protection. It's probate protection. It's incapacity protection to own in a trust. I don't know that I can go backwards on if I switch screens or something, but in that joint trust, you can own property in multiple states. You can own a standalone. You could have a trust to just own property in another state. That would be fine, but still there's no asset protection in that if you're the trustor, trustee, and beneficiary.
Okay.
So I will say one thing. It is good to consult with an estate planning attorney, whether you want to own, like if we own our Idaho property in our trust, that's fine. If we decided to do an LLC in Idaho, and then we transfer that LLC into our trust here, then all of the value of that is added to our taxable estate in Washington, because we have moved the dirt into an LLC and we own it here. If the dirt is outside of the state of Washington, then less is subject to the Washington state estate tax.
Oh, wow. And then how old, somebody else is asking, how old, when do we add the kids to our trust? What is the age gap there and what's legal?
When can your kids be trustees?
Yes.
Well, they can at 18, but I would never trust an 18-year-old with my money. Right?
That's true. Yeah, they
I mean,
barely know themselves.
I generally don't like to give money to kids until they're 25. Pay for their schooling, their health, their support, their computers, all that, and then maybe phase it in. At 25, they get a third. At 30, they get a half, and at 35. Just that way they don't make one bad decision, get married, divorced, and then lose it to their ex.
Okay. And does that differ in different states, or is that your general suggestion? 18
Well,
or
the rule on legality for ages varies by state. in Washington, you can vote at 18, but you really can't own real property until you're 21. And the UTMA accounts can go to 21 or 25. So that would vary by state.
Okay.
But choosing your trustee is like, how mature are they? You could have a really mature 22-year-old, but statistically, men's brains don't totally form till they're 40. Sorry,
No
guys.
comment on that, but thanks for letting us know. 40 or 50, what do you think?
Depends on the guy. Yeah.
That depends on the guy, that's for sure. Okay, one more question here. Let me read it for you real quick. Taking a while. Oh, you have so many questions, so we're gonna go really quick. How does trust protect business owners? What are the legal documents that every small business need to have to protect themselves from creditors, lawsuits, and what are the challenges? We have a lot of questions.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to just do this where I go like that. Do I have my color drawing? Okay. So in this, while you're both alive, the trust has zero protection. But you can move an LLC, a corporation, whatever. I have 2 corporations and 2 LLCs in my trust. It's because they're LLCs and corporations that they're protected. What the trust does is it makes sure that upon death, there's no probate of the asset, and then it fits with the estate plan. But the way you protect yourself with a corporation is you have minutes every year. You have to have corporate minutes. Otherwise, they pierce the corporate veil and they say, you just created this entity, you never followed it. And so if there's liability in the corporation, then they could say, blow it up, look at all those assets and go outside of that after your other brokerage accounts. So you gotta follow the formalities. That's why LLCs are done more frequently. There's less formality. You basically check a box every year in your annual report and you are deemed in compliance.
Okay, so I have another question. Recommendations for small business owners to feel safe and protected if anything ever happens to their business. What do you recommend to keep them detached from their personal assets to their business?
Wow. You want to not hold all of your profits forever in the business. You want to take some out to you personally. I think you want to just be clear about what is owned by the business and what is owned personally. Sometimes people will stick more cars and things, they get write-offs, but it means that if anything happened in the business, those cars could be liquidated to meet the, the needs. So I know that's a complex question. It's a great question, but I don't know if I have a quick answer.
Yeah, I don't think that can be a quick answer because that's what you and I have been trying to do for me. So I think it's for the business owner asking this question to get in touch with you and find out, maybe you need to form a document that has a language that separates the asset. I'm not an attorney, I don't know, that's just my business owner's mind.
Well, one thing I didn't say is you can have multiple entities and they have contracts with one another. That's tends to be a good strategy. What you don't want to do is have 10 rental properties all in one LLC. Any slip and fall in one of those would mean they could go after everything in that entity. So you want to put a wrapper on things. Sometimes you have the high risk assets in one or separate LLCs, and the low risk, maybe you combine a couple, but you can have a contract between them and things like that. So you kind of layer things.
Okay, that means you can have different investment properties. I don't know what's happening. So you can have different investment properties with under different trusts, right?
Different trusts or different companies, different LLCs.
Oh, I like that. So you can have like 5 homes, different LLC. If one gets in trouble, it doesn't have to take the other one away from you.
Right.
Okay. Somebody's asking, give us the difference between the trust and POA.
Oh, a power of attorney is just an agency. The principle is that, like, right now, I could give you a power of attorney for you to go buy a book for me or something. Usually people give to their spouse or their loved one a power to do buy, sell, lease, transfer. It's very general, but you want it to be durable. If I'm incapacitated, that's when I most need it. So you say that it will survive my incapacity. So that's a durable power of attorney, is me appointing someone. But if I die, they can't be my agent because I'm gone. So a power of
Yeah.
attorney dies with you. I recommend a financial power and a health power. Sometimes because they're different people and they have different needs.
Okay.
But that's very different than a trust or a will. It's the ability for someone to sign on your behalf.
Okay. Okay. So somebody is asking about understanding contracts. You don't do business contracts, but you have referrals, correct?
What did you say? What's the question?
She's asking about I think she's wanting to know, she's bleeding on signing contracts without understanding. Do you have a business attorney you can recommend for contracts?
Yes. Although I've done some contracts, people specialize in that. Employment agreements and contracts for sales and rents. So yes, I know a number of attorneys that do that. It's called transactional work. Yeah.
Transactional work. Okay. And then, so if somebody has a business and it has a trust and it's covered by the trust, can you franchise that business?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you can do any business you want. It's just, do you want to also assign or own that in your trust, simply so that it doesn't go public when you die, and then in probate, everyone gets to read about it.
Okay. One more question. I don't know whether this is your question or something. Is outsourcing legal, especially in healthcare industry?
Outsourcing legal.
Yeah. Is it legal to outsource like your business to having like a team in another country? Can you outsource your business? Is that
yeah,
legal?
yeah,
I think it's
yeah.
a tax related question. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you're not trying to cheat on taxation, yeah, you can have people that are drafters in India. I've experimented with that. You can have contractors in other countries and other jurisdictions. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. That's good.
You just don't want to mislead, anyone that's, you don't want to say that you're you're a health specialist and then you don't care about health at all. I mean, but you can employ people all around. Just don't say that you do everything yourself. Say that you have a team, and then you can employ whomever you want.
And maybe consult an accountant when it comes to tax questions on that, right?
A lot of people have like a paid accountant or an independent contractor. That's where you get into problems. You can't. Actually, one more business tip. When you have employees, you generally have to pay hourly, unless they're exempt, and the state and the federal have rules about that. And if you treat everyone as if they're exempt and they're not, and then 2, 3, 4, 5 years later, they see an employment attorney, then they come back after you. I've had people lose their houses and their businesses because of employment questions like that.
It's good to be careful and to have the right attorney to check it out. Steve, you've been so helpful. I
didn't even pay you for that introduction. That was phenomenal.
I'll invoice you. Don't worry. I got that. I'll invoice you. Thank you for always being there for us. I have Chris putting your information there because we have a lot of people asking questions about franchising, about business contracts, about trust. And I want all those questions to be forwarded to your office so that you can be able to help them. I trust Steve with my life. And you're looking at a woman who is, I'm working on my trust. And if I can go to Steve's office and just drop everything and say, here I am, he has been there he's protected our life and he's protected my businesses. So I can trust him. And I can also call him for prayer. I mean, you don't get both, but with Steve, you can get both. So if you guys not been in business long enough to say that, and when I can put my name on somebody that I know and the work that he does, I trust this man. So if you have any question, and if you're not sure as a business owner, when and how to put your trust or will together, I definitely highly recommend you contact Steve Walters, and the information is right there. Thank you so much, Steve. Thanks for hanging out with us. Can you hang out a little bit more?
I will. Yep.
Yeah. Tell your wife I said hi, and I'll take her for lunch for this time.
All right.
I know it's Friday. Yeah, thank you. All right, we're gonna go next, real quick to Jeremy Grady. Jeremy, I'm so excited because I have 1,000 questions for you.
Hello.
Yeah, hey, And everybody knows you're in IT. Everybody right now knows that you're CEO of CoactiveSoft. I'm not even going to ask you about CoactiveSoft because people can go to coactivesoft.com and check on what your company does. I want you to talk to business owners, especially in healthcare, home healthcare, assisted living, hospitals, adult family home, especially, because we are bleeding about staffing. So how can your company help us? People in healthcare that have major issues about documentation, staffing, management, all of that. How does your company come in and help us? What do you have for us?
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen and kind of talk through that specific issue, and then we can talk about that.
And Wairi Mukimani, if you're here, you better bring all your agency questions because we got the guy for you.
Okay, let me know. Can you see my screen?
Yes, you're good.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so this really started for us at CoactiveSoft as COVID was coming up, and my introduction to Family Best Care, your in-home care business, was really at the beginning of COVID. So Family Best Care, in-home care agency in Washington State. But the thing that really stood out was it's a vulnerable population that we're dealing with. Washington was really where a lot of this began for the United States. But the challenges are we had vulnerable population. We had aging, sick people who needed that care. We had distributed healthcare workers, caregivers, nurses going to their locations. And the other problem, as you know, is that management wasn't able to go there. If you can't go into the nursing home, into the assisted living facility to see if your caregivers are there as they should be, when they should be, how do you monitor them? How do you make sure that they're doing the work that they're supposed to be doing? Are you there? Are you on time? Are you doing what you're supposed to do? And then just kind of general business issues going along with that. A big issue is staffing, keeping track of all the people, finding, setting up shifts for your clients, having the right caregiver go to those shifts, medical assessments assessments for the care needs for those clients, contracts, whether it's for hiring the caregivers or contracts with the clients, payroll issues, just kind of all these business needs that came out as challenges that are generally a challenge for business, but they became, it added a layer of difficulty in COVID because you no longer had the ability to just go into the client location at that point in time. You now have to pivot. You have to be able to adapt in a way that you couldn't have done before.
So hold on, Jim. We have Betty. Hi, Betty. She has a new home care agency and she is very stressed. And I know what is stressing her because I can feel her pain. Can you talk to, I just want to, oh, okay. I just want you to jump into what you can offer to small business owners. I have so many people popping questions here. I can hear it keep up. Yeah,
so the specific answer that we have for that is technology to support. In this case, my company has built a software product called My Care Composer it's an integrated web and mobile app that lets you manage your care business. In this case, your adult family home lets you manage your caregivers, manage the information about your clients, the staffing, the shifts, the assessments, the appointments for the clients, keep track of all that stuff, keep track of your paperwork, all of your forms, your contracts, everything all in one place so that you can stay compliant with all of those state regulations, all those things that you need in order to make sure that you're doing what you need to do to protect your business and run your business and grow your business. We have this piece of software that Family Best Care is using, and we're making that available to other adult family homes, in-home care, and assisted living facilities. So there are other software products. We work very closely with Family Best Care to make sure that this isn't a product that is developed. Sometimes people will build a product where they don't really understand how people are going to use that product. And the big focus that we do, and I think one of the things that sets us apart, is we work with Family Best Care. So we understand it's an ongoing and regular evolution of the product based on the day-to-day needs and pain that businesses are having specifically in that space.
So talk to us a little bit. I have so many questions here. Talk to us a little bit about how are you, what are the benefits, what are the features? That's the question. What are the features that a small business owner who has an adult family home can use to be able to keep her life together? Because we're managing care, we're managing employees, we're managing documentation. We want to know that we stay in compliance because we want the state out of our house. So what are the features that you've built, especially for small business owners, adult family home care agencies, assisted living, that they can access right away?
Absolutely. So I have a lot of those things addressed a couple slides down the road. So maybe I'll walk through a couple of these, and if I don't speak to those specifically, let me know. But I'm definitely going to touch on those topics. Does that work?
Sure.
Okay. So where I came from in this, my background at Microsoft, 10 years at Microsoft, Boeing, IBM, I've worked for large companies where we had huge resources. So, in this picture, we've got these giant companies that have a lot of money. They've got a lot of people, and they have problems. Every company has challenges that they're trying to overcome. But because they can throw a lot of money at it and a lot of people at it, they're able to build these super customized, tailored solutions that address exactly what they're looking for. And that lets them beat the competition. When you have a company like Amazon, when you have a company like Microsoft, they can pour millions of dollars into these projects to implement something that a small business struggles to keep up with. And so the realization that I had as COVID was coming around was companies like Family Best Care, adult family homes, they're not that large scale company. They don't have the same resources that a giant company has, but they do have many of the same problems. And so the problem that we're facing for these small companies, and I'm sure, for those of you with businesses like that, adult family homes, etc., your solutions often tend to be these good enough workarounds. I'm going to do a manual process. How many of you have been sitting there at night trying to plan, how am I going to invoice my clients? And you're writing things out on a notebook. How am I going to do staffing? This person's going to go here. That person's going to go here. Scratch a line out. Post-it notes on a wall. There's a manual process that people go through as they try to keep track of everything, but it doesn't scale. And so things get lost. They miss opportunities. There's a limit to how much you can grow. You can grow your business as large as your ability to chase around all those loose ends. Once you start getting to a point where you can't handle that, you kind of lose it. There's a saying in various industries where you promote to your highest level of incompetence. I'll grow my business until I start failing. And once I fail, okay, that's as good as I can get. That's a challenge that a lot of people have as they start their businesses in that manual space. And so that was really the question that I was trying to help solve, not just for Family Best Care, but realizing that that's something that addresses many businesses in that space. It's that idea of how can I apply the rigor, the sophistication, and the lessons that I learned of how to build really high quality solutions, but apply that to a small business so that they can keep their money, focus on growing their business, but leverage this technology. And that's really the essence of what we're trying to do at CoactiveSoft is benefit small businesses, but using big business technology, big business solutions. And this is a personal thing for me, still help people along the way. Another part of my background, while I have 26 years in the technology and software industry, I also have spent about 15 years in various community-oriented capacities, 15 years in disaster preparedness, 8 years in search and rescue. I've been hanging under helicopters, rappelling down cliffs, finding people lost in the woods, and 7 years as a first responder. So I do software, but I also go out of my way because I believe in helping other people in the community. And so the vision of what CoactiveSoft is trying to do is not just do that software, but try to do it in a way where we can help other people as well. That's just a personal thing that I bring to it. So I want to play a little bit of a game. I want you to see how many of you resonate with this. Name the business, what type of business this is. So as we look at these different challenges that a business faces, you tell me what kind of business that is. You need to manage clients, you need to manage staff, do staffing, client appointments, contracts, employee contracts, client contracts, track the work, payroll, billing, contact lists, easy communication, business specific information. What kind of business is that? Could it be any of these? Does your business fit in there?
Adult family home
Adult
care.
family
That's what
homes,
Steve says.
In-home
Absolutely.
care, law
Uh,
firms. I mean,
yeah.
this applies really,
Home
it
care
applies to any of the
agencies
above.
applies to us. Yeah.
Exactly. So these are just very common challenges that just about everybody faces. And so really what we're looking at is it's a lot that we have on here, but the problem is managing your business, keeping track of everything, and really trying to compete with a large company, but where you don't have that budget, that you don't have that Microsoft budget, you don't have that Amazon budget. But if we look at these things, we have, excuse me one second. We have that in the center of this Venn diagram, we have these common elements. All of these businesses face those challenges, managing clients, managing their staff, tracking their work. But then these different businesses have their own specific thing that's relevant to them. So an adult family home has compliance and documentation. They do medical appointments for their clients. They have assessments. They are compliant with the audits. They've got their care team. Their caregivers need to be certified. They need to keep track of all that. A law firm, you've got court, you've got legal documents, you're giving advice, you're doing all of these things that are different. Maybe even a landscaping business. So, across the board, it could be a very wide range of business. Still need to keep track of the people who are mowing lawns, but you're also doing quotes and estimates for them. You need to keep track of your equipment maintenance, other things like that. So there's a wide range of capabilities that you need to support with that. So the solution that we have come up with is an integrated web and mobile app. And that's just kind of based on the reality of today's world. There are times when it's convenient for an office person to sit at a desk and have a big screen that they're looking at. But there are also people who are out there in the field, and they need to have that same connection back with the office. Leveraging those industry best practices, that's taking advantage of the cloud, taking advantage of iPhones and Androids and encryption and high quality security, GPS, taking advantage of the technology. But what we bring to it is a modular component that we can configure. And so let's say in the case of Family Best Care is a care agency, but they're not an adult family home. So they don't have homes that they own. They send caregivers to live at the client home. So Family Best Care doesn't need to have the ability to track facilities. But an adult family home, if you don't have facility information, how are you going to know where my clients, this caregiver needs to go to that house? And so there's a home or a facility module that we've created that would be activated and used for an adult family home using that particular software that adds value in that space. A landscaping firm, for example, might have an inventory that they would activate. But if you're an in-home care agency, you're not so much involved in tracking your inventory, or a law firm, for example.
So I have a question. I have
yes.
a question here for an adult family home. Somebody is asking, is your software able to support me enough to have all my clients' appointments, doctor's visits, their so documentation for caregivers, documentation. So I think she's asking about documentation management.
Yes.
Is that
yes.
both mobile and web?
Yes,
Can
absolutely.
they be able to work from their cell phone, checking
absolutely.
on all those things?
Well, we're one screen away from that. So the answer is yes. So here's a screenshot of the My Care Composer app. And so I'm not sure, can you see my mouse?
We're good.
Okay, excellent. So over on the left, we have a various set of navigation components for this. And so we have a client list. This is an example, just a screenshot that I have from a demo environment. But we have this list of clients right here. And then over on the right, we've got a set of things that we can see for that client. So what we have right here is we can see the care shifts for this particular client. So, and who's the caregiver. So for this client, Abraham, we can see that Gretchen is scheduled to work on Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. That's an active shift. Gretchen is currently working right now. We've got a shift tomorrow. Well, it's unassigned. I don't have a caregiver for that. So I might need to do some staffing for that shift. And then there are bulk edit capabilities. I can create single shifts, etc. But here I can see that the client Abraham has a 6-month assessment at 4 o'clock. And so I can plan those. I can add assessments. I can add doctor's appointments in there. I can also add work items and keep track of that. Now, if I were to scroll down in this list, it's a screenshot, but in the app, we also have documents. We have forms and contracts. We have medication lists. We have medication logs, incident reports, other things like that. So all in this one place. If someone calls in, whether it's the power of attorney or a family member or the client themselves calls in, if I need to find out, if they say, hey, I need some care on Sunday, whoever is working for that client right then can scroll down and they can look and see, oh, I see, we've already got a work item listed where we're working on getting you care for that. We're still working on building that shift. And so we can drill into that and see more details about that. For planning that assessment, who's the nurse who's going to be there? What time are they going to be there? We've got information in that. So the idea is that this is one place in the web where an office person can manage the information in the website, but have it still be available for people in the mobile experience. And so here's an example of what you would see in the caregiver space. Now this is all demo environment, demo data, but it illustrates the idea of this. So this is a remote care employee. This is a caregiver who's out in the field. And so think of this in the context of the pandemic, where I can't necessarily be in the field. I can't necessarily be monitoring what these caregivers are doing, but what does a caregiver need to know? So here's some big questions. What am I supposed to do right now? So this is from our mobile app for My Care Composer. And this is broken down to, this is the current shifts. This is what we can see right now. So who's the client? When am I supposed to be there? I can send a message to my care team. If this is a component of it right here. If I need to request help, there are times when I might not necessarily be able to make a phone call, but I can send a kind of a stealthy request of, oops, there's a problem right now. Bring the office in, give me that help. But I can see the details. I can see where they are. I can see the information about the care plan, a track of the tasks that I'm supposed to do, etc. Caregiver can take a break. When they're finished with their shift, they can complete that shift. They can also view their future shifts, so they can plan their lives a little bit. So today I'm working here, but tomorrow, the next day, where am I supposed to work and what do I need to do to prepare for those shifts? They can also look at the past. Okay, looking back over this pay period, what should I be expecting for my paycheck? Well, these are the shifts that I worked. This is how much I was paid. This is what I should be expecting, whether I'm getting paid daily at a daily rate or an hourly rate, and be able to understand that. And so one of the things that we've seen with that is, if there was a problem, well, I actually worked instead of from 7 a.m. to 7 a.m., instead of it being a 24-hour shift, maybe I worked until 6 a.m. So the caregiver can see, that's not how I actually worked. I actually worked different hours. Or wait a minute, I worked at a different pay rate. Can we talk about that? So the caregiver gets to be empowered to see a little bit more about what's going on in their space. And Abby, you talked about Uber staffing. We try not to use that term because we don't want to step on any legal toes. But the idea of that, I think, is really making staffing, putting staffing into the hands of the caregivers. And I think for those of you with adult family homes or any kind of business where you need to do staffing, it's that challenge of chasing after, I've got this shift, I've got this client who needs something, and now I need to go out and look at all my employees, and I need to find someone who's the right person to plug into that space. And so this is twisting it on its ear. When I need a ride, I don't call Uber and say, hey, Uber, can you go out and look around and find the best car for me? The ride is there. All the drivers are out there, and the driver who finds that ride selects that and says, yes, I will work there. And so that's the concept, is we've kind of applied that into the staffing space for this, that when we make a shift. So do I have an example of this? Not on this page, but on the other page, I had actually this page right here. So we've got an example of this unassigned shift. This shift right here on Friday, we need a caregiver to work that. And so a traditional model is, I'm going to go out and call all the caregivers. I might say, well, Gretchen and Barbara normally work for this client, so I'll call Gretchen and Barbara and find out if either of them is willing to work on Friday. How many of you have been in that situation? But what if neither of them is available? Then what do you do? And now you're chasing after all of your caregivers trying to get someone. The idea of this is we post those unassigned shifts. We make it available to caregivers. So this is the caregiver experience. They can see here, I can see my shifts, but if I'm over here, I can see as a caregiver, I can say, you know what? I'm not doing anything on Sunday. There are no good games on TV. I've seen all the movies I want to see. I want to make a little bit of extra money. And so what I can do is I can come in here and look at this, and I can say, wow, there's a 4 a.m. to 4 a.m. shift, 5:30 to 5:30, 7, whatever the shifts are. You know what? Seattle's a little too far for me. I don't want to go to Seattle, but Bellevue looks good. So I'll go ahead and request that. Or maybe I'll say, you know what? I don't care. I just need some extra hours. Christmas is coming up. I need to be able to be prepared for this. So I'm going to request every shift that I can and see what I can get from that. And what we've done in the system is the shifts that are only the shifts that are displayed to caregivers are only the ones that they are actually able to take. And so in this situation, if I'm already scheduled to work on Sunday, I'm not going to see any shifts on Sunday. And so for caregivers, we're kind of doing that staffing, that first line of staffing for you to try to simplify your business process. And again, going back towards that of doing what we can, by understanding how businesses work, what can we do to simplify your job and in a sense, let the robot take care of it. The robot already knows that Gretchen is working on Friday. So when Gretchen looks at this list, Gretchen's not going to see any shifts on Friday because she's already scheduled to work. Does that make sense, Abby?
It does make sense. I want to say something. One of the benefits of this app that I'm using it right now was today when we were stuck. Today when we were stuck with a couple shifts, and Warimo Kimani, if you're here, you can attest to this. And we posted it on our website, on my Care Composer. And people that we never thought about received the shifts. And all we have to do is just follow up. Hey, Cynthia, did you take this shift? Yes, you have it. Just having the caregivers take responsibility of the shifts, then we are not calling them from left to right. And Jeremy can attest to this. Once the shifts are there, people can start picking the shifts, or they can share with other people. And Wairimo is asking, actually, she has a home care agency. She's asking, does my Care Composer send group emails too? How does it have the ability for mass communication?
Yes, the answer is yes. So here's an example over here on this. We have the concept of a care team. And so in this, so if the client is Al here, if a caregiver needs to send a message, and I apologize, I don't have a screenshot for that, but that's within the app. If I'm, let's say I'm getting ready to start my shift and I want to send a message saying, hey, I'm getting ready to go to Al's house. Does anybody need anything? And so I can send a blast out to all of the caregivers in the care team for that client and say, I'm getting ready to go shopping. And then someone could reply back and say, yeah, you know what, we're low on milk. We need hand sanitizer. Could you get some more gloves? Something like that. And so everyone on the care team is aware of what's going on. We also have another feature that's available actually down here from the management side, where you can send mass messages out to everyone. And so
yeah, that's what she's asking.
Yes, absolutely. And so we're in a situation where if you need to send a message to all of your caregivers, hey, there's a new protocol. You remember with COVID, at first it was don't wear masks because you need to save the masks for certain people to use. And then it was no, everybody has to wear a mask. So as we gain understanding of what is happening in this case in a pandemic, how do you get that message out to everybody as quickly as possible? When the rules change, we need to be able to move quickly. And this is a system where instead of having to go through your phone and make sure you're texting everybody, you can just mass send it out to everyone. It will go to all of the caregivers.
That for staffing, to me, I feel like it is the savior of the world. I don't have to call every person like I do and text them. You have mass communication to everybody, but also you can put the unassigned shift in the system and people can start picking them. Today, having 3 people pick 3 shifts, I was like, yes. And they're the people I will never thought about. I will never thought about giving them shifts because we have people going and coming and joining our agency and leaving our agency and doing, they're committed to 4 different agencies. You never think about everybody when there is a need. But when I was able to put a shift there and somebody said, oh, I'm available.
And the thing that makes it exciting is, and I think for me, it's that growing the business. When you're starting out that adult family home, maybe we're just using that spare bedroom in the back of our house. But as we grow, we have 2 clients, 3 clients, 5 clients, 10 clients, 30 clients. When you start getting to a certain level where you can't keep track of everything, you need to start bringing in other people to help you as your business grows. The piece of this is we have a role-based system that lets you hand out accountability and permissions based on what is appropriate for your business. So if it's husband and wife working at the business, maybe everybody has access to everything. But if you have a larger organization, you might have a finance person who's keeping track of that. You might have a caregiver manager. You might have a client manager. In our case, we have a staffing role at Family Best Care where the staffing person can see some information, but they can't see other information. And so instead of a staffing person having to go out and track down everything that they need, as the caregivers request a shift. So again, we go back to this situation. This is an unassigned shift on Friday, 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. It's a good shift. Maybe a lot of people want that. Again, holidays are coming up. People want to be prepared for that. So a lot of people, maybe 5 or 10 different caregivers request that shift. Now the staffing person no longer has to go in there and find the right caregiver for it. They can look at the list of caregivers who've requested it, and they can make an informed decision. And we have additional caregiver metrics that we can put in there. So you can say, we have rated this caregiver. There are some caregivers who might be better or worse for a particular client. So maybe the client has a rule that, it's a vulnerable female client and we can't have a male caregiver for that client. So even though 5 men and 5 women have requested this client, or this shift, I know as a staffing person that the rules say that, we're not allowed to put a male caregiver with that vulnerable female client. So I'm going to choose a different caregiver based on those rules. Or maybe it's this client is very well aware of the care that they need. They're just not able to get around. I just had some hip surgery. I know what needs to be done. I'll tell you what to do. I don't need someone puttering around and doing everything that they think needs to be done. I'll tell you where you need to go. It's a different kind of client than maybe a client with dementia. In that case, you might need a caregiver who's a real self-starter and can just go in and take over and kind of bring order to the chaos.
Okay, so are the caregivers, when we post a staffing need, are the caregivers getting an alert that there is a new need? How are they?
Yes.
How are those features?
Yes, and then that shows up down in the open shifts. As there are shifts, then a count would show up, and then they'd see that there's there are new things that are available. And then when they're assigned to a shift, so I go in there and I say, Jeremy, Mary, and Abby and Steve have all requested this shift for Al. The staffing person goes in there and says, oh, nope, the client didn't really like Jeremy the last time he was there, but Mary did a great job. So I'm going to add Mary to it. Mary would then get an alert that says, you've just been added, you've been assigned to a new shift. And then she can go in there and look and see that, oh, I've got a shift coming up on Friday.
So when people hear about technology, and thank you for that information, when people hear about technology, Jeremy, they hear like I heard, I was like, huh? How much is it going to be? First of all, I'm Kenyan. I'm going to ask how much it's going to cost because that's just how we roll. Second of all, I'm a small business owner, an adult family homeowner, an agency owner. We don't have the Microsoft budget to build this business. How are you tailoring your services to an adult family business owner? I know you gave me a flat fee, so I know it's a rate for every small business owner. How are you catering to those businesses? Because they need the technology to keep their license. If we don't get organized, we're not going to be in compliance. So how are you catering for those small business owners?
Yeah. So for this software, it depends on some of the features that people are looking for, and it also depends on the size. The goal of this, and this kind of goes back to where my heart is. My heart is I want to help people, and I went through a time for 8 years. I went out and I hiked the trails. I hung underneath the helicopters, and I went out and I found people one by one. And this is a situation where I can create the software, and someone in a different state, someone who needs that help, and I can be a part of that. So if you're there and maybe you're just helping your parents, but you need to keep track of their medical appointments, you need to keep track of their medications, it's not going to be the same pricing as it is for a 500 patient assisted living facility.
Correct.
So some of that, it's kind of hard to answer specifically, but it depends on the number of clients that you have, and then we scale and adjust as that goes. There are some other components based on other software, but I'll speak to that a little bit as we get down the road a little bit. I did want to show the admin side of this, because we talked about the caregiver piece. That's only one piece of the puzzle, because I think for a lot of you, especially if you're going from one adult family home to another, you're not always at your desk. You don't always have the ability to use the computer. And so this gives you that ability. We could be in this meeting right now, and all of a sudden something comes up and you need to know what's going on. So I've just taken a sample of some screens that we can to represent some of the options here. So this one right here it's an example of a shift where we can see some details. We can see where is the shift. If I need to call the client, I just tap that and it brings up the client phone number. If I need to change the schedule, oh, it's not from 7 a.m. to 7 a.m., it's from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. I can go in there and change the time for that. I can see who the caregiver is. And this, oh, look at me, I'm the caregiver. I can go in there, I can reassign it. If Jeremy's not available, I can unassign that caregiver, which then puts it out there for other caregivers to request. Or if I know who's going to do that, I can change the assignment right there. I can add work items for the client, etc. I can manage everything about that shift from my phone wherever I am. I don't have to be at the desk. The same thing, this is just kind of an overview of everything that's going on for my business. What's going on? Where are all my clients? Where are all my caregivers? And so there are a whole series of filters that I can get to from here. I can look at all the appointments. One of the things that we do with Family Best Care is they'll have their nurses go out and do assessments for those clients. So as a nurse, I could sign in, look at the appointments version of this, and I can see, oh, I've got an appointment at this client's house at 3 o'clock today. Then I've got another one at a different client at 4 o'clock. I can go in there, and as a nurse, I can see everything that I've got lined up, all the work that I need to do my assessments. As a business owner, again, I can keep track of all those of all the work that's going. So maybe this client needs some new hours. This wants some different hours. I've got a new client who has different work that is needed to be done. Family Best Care uses a 24/7 call center. And so we built, again, talking about modules, for this business, they have activated the module for the call center. So when a call comes into the call center can record the information about it. It has information about who the on-call person is for the business. They type in the notes and it puts it in as a work item, sends an alert to the on-call person who can then read it off their phone. And so in that one place, you're able to track, now I know what's the work that I'm doing, who am I doing it for, and I can keep track in the comments with what's going on. And then if I need to bring in more of the team can all go look at that work item and they can see what's going on. So everyone is aware of what's going on, and the manager, the owner, whoever it is in the business can have an idea of what's going on. If I need to talk to the client and they say, well, I was supposed to get new hours, what's the status of that? I simply look at the work item and I can see the details. Oh, I see that Mary has added that. We're just looking for a caregiver at this point.
Okay, so we have a quick question here. Talk to us about billing, because people wants to know, we don't want to do paperwork anymore. We don't want to, have a third party that we are paying when we have a system. Is your system enough to help us with billing?
The answer is yes. What we do is we have, as all of these caregivers work their shifts, this is the manager view, but over here this is the caregiver view of a shift. So I'm working this time from 7 a.m. to 7 a.m. This is a 24-hour shift. When I have completed my shift, the caregiver clicks on that to clock out of their shift. In the case of the caregiver, maybe they could go out on break. And so and there are different rules that we have for different shifts. Maybe we do or don't invoice the client for breaks, things like that, holiday rules and all of that. Within the system, we allow the manager to define the rules for that. How much are we going to invoice the client? How much are we going to pay the caregiver, whether it's a daily rate or an hourly rate? All of that is broken down so that when we get down to the payroll time, we can go through and we have a breakdown for every single caregiver. You worked at this client this many hours at this rate, that client that many hours, that rate. You can see everything, verify everything, and then approve that at that point. When you've gone through and approved all of the payroll, you've verified that everything is set the way it needs to be set. There are expenses. Did I add reimbursement for parking, for tolls, for grocery purchases, things like that? Once you've validated all of that, then it goes over into an invoice approval process. And again, you can look at it and say, are we properly listing everything? Oops, I forgot to approve that shift. There's an approval process that lets you verify that everyone is getting, that all the details are appropriate for that shift. Once that's happened, we have tied into QuickBooks at this point, where it sends the invoices over to that so that you can then send your invoices out to the clients. And so that's one of those elements, is that with this software, where we can do the software to help you, we've done it in one place. Where there are places where someone else has done just a great job in another area, we're going to leverage that use the industry best practices for that. So in that case, we've tied into QuickBooks. We've tied into a couple other products that let us take advantage of billing and payment.
Okay, somebody is asking about profit sharing. I know there is legal aspects of it that needs to be. Jeremy, and you're freezing. Your Zoom is going in and out.
Let's see. I'm not sure. Is this any better?
Actually, we can't see you, but we can hear you. So talk a little bit about profit sharing, if that's something within your jurisdiction at this.
Yes. So let me switch down to this a little bit. Can you see this screen?
Growing with partners. Yes, we
Okay.
can.
Yes. So the idea of this is CoactiveSoft has built, we have a, I'm going to turn off my video because it looks like things are, is the video a little bit strange right now for you?
It's weird, but we can
Okay.
hear you.
Okay. So we've built My Care Composer as a product that people can just, it's a software as a service. It's something that you can do a subscription for. So like you have a QuickBooks subscription, like you have a subscription to Netflix or Disney Plus, you can just have a monthly subscription for that, just to have access to that software. But then there are other businesses beyond that, where maybe your business doesn't necessarily want to build all of that software. And you remember back to that if you're a giant corporation, you can throw a whole lot of money at this and build your own customized software. What if you don't have software, or what if your business isn't an adult family home? What if you're not an in-home care agency or an assisted living facility? We have designed a base platform for the software that lets us focus on what we do well. And so the idea of this is that we've built these common features into the software so that, sorry, we've built these common features into the software, such as the client management, the scheduling, the staffing, the payroll, etc. We have those components in there, but then we can add additional components and customize it for another product, another app that is specific to your business need, your industry need, or maybe even branded for your particular business. So the idea of that is that it's a shared development cost. We have the base level of capability there, but there might be some specific thing that you do. So let's say Steve wants to do some will and trust document. Actually, that's something that I didn't talk about, but I want to mention it briefly. Caregiver hiring and client contracts. So one of the challenges that Abby was having is that someone would call and say, I want to be a new caregiver at your company. And then there's this whole process that goes through. Okay, well, here are the 5 documents that you need to send us. We're going to send you a contract. We need to do a background check. Once we've gone through all of that, then we can bring you on as a caregiver. At this point, what we've built into the product is we can take an email address, put that into the app, even from your phone. It sends an email out to them, lets them fill out the application, lets them fill out their username, their phone and address, and then it sends the DocuSign link to them with all of the information for the contract. So the caregiver can fill out the contract in DocuSign, and then that just gets sent right back to the company. And so, a business manager at the company can be in line at the grocery store and doing hiring for new caregivers. And it's the same thing for clients. If you have a client, when you go to that client, what's the information that you need in your contract? Who's the client? Who's the power of attorney? What's the address where we're doing the care? What's a list of the care plan? It's a fairly small list of things that go into that standard care contract. But once you finish that and you click send, it sends that contract over by DocuSign. So you're no longer chasing back and forth of, I've written it up, but I've taken a grainy, blurry picture on my phone. I'm going to text it back to the office. All of that management gets handled and run through DocuSign. So, but the idea of this will kind of expand out from this into other business. So let's say Steve is running his business and he says, I'm a law firm. I don't really care about not that he doesn't care, but it's not part of my business to do caregiver contracts and care contracts with clients. But I do a lot of legal documents, and I'd like to be able to send those contracts out to my clients during my meeting. Or let's say you're a landscaping business and you want to be able to fill out, you go to a client's house and they say, okay, I want you to mow the lawn. I want you to trim the bushes. I want you to water the flowers. So you might go in there and write down in the contract, oh, your lawn looks about this big. I think it's going to take about this many hours. You put that information in there. And then from your mobile app, you might want that to send a bid right over to the client. If the client says yes, they fill out the DocuSign, they sign that, and it comes back to you, then everything is good. So the idea of the profit sharing is that we have that base product, that base capability, but we might spend a little bit of time building that functionality that works for your business, your law firm, your landscaping business, something like that. And then instead of you having to pay all that money to develop that software, that Microsoft money in order to build that whole product, we do most of that work. And then the profit sharing component is where you focus your money on growing your business. If you can go from 5 clients to 200 clients, and most of your money is spent on growing that client base and focusing on what you do well, then the profit sharing allows you to use the software without putting all of your money up front into the creation of that software.
Okay. So people that have small, most of us entrepreneurs that have small business owners, that have small businesses, it's getting dinner time, that have small businesses, we have the opportunity to partner with MyCare Composer and share with what they've created. Just join into the platform and be able to articulate the modules that we need, which will be tailor-made to our business. Is that what I'm understanding, Jeremy?
Yes, a minor tweak to that. So MyCare Composer is an example of that. So we have another product down here. We have a product called Smart Fulcrum. Smart Fulcrum is really the base level product. That's a product that's really for any business. MyCare Composer is highly customized for care businesses. And so that has nurse visits. Yes,
right?
it's very healthcare oriented. Smart Fulcrum is designed really for any business. If you have that lawn business, if you have that law firm, that's a generic general platform. Again, back to that Venn diagram with that common set of issues. The common set of issues is addressed by Smart Fulcrum. But if you want to customize it very specifically for your business, let's say you have that landscaping business and you want to have some feature in there that's not currently served by that, or I talked a little bit, or there was on another slide where we have Square integration. So maybe you want to allow the client to pay for you mowing their lawn on Square, but we don't necessarily support that directly in the app as it is right now. We might partner to build that functionality so that you can have your lawn mowing app that's specifically out there, so you can have your branded growing component for your business that's additional value for your business. So I'm not just a lawn mowing business, I'm a lawn mowing business where I have my own app. Here's my brand, here's my website, here's that product that I have. That's something that you can have be a part of your business that lets you scale it and add value to your business.
Oh, I am so grateful. And anybody who has any questions, info@coactivesoft.com, info@coactivesoft.com. Chris, go ahead and put that information on every page that we have. Jeremy, thank you so much for sharing with us. And
Absolutely.
I know people in the care industry, especially home care agencies, adult family home, they have some questions, because if we are going to grow, if we are going to build and leave a legacy, we are going to make sure that we have a software that we can afford, that is effective, that can keep us organized, and we can be able to manage the documentation. And beyond everything else, we need to keep our licenses. So we need a software that can keep us compliant. So thank you so much. Any question to Jeremy, please send it to info@coactivesoft.com, and Chris put that information there. We're almost wrapping up here. We are going lastly to our girl, Mary Kim. So Mary, please jump on right here. It's getting dinner time, so we'll make sure we're quick. Almost done. And put some questions here. We are going to tackle them and handle them for you.
Hey, Abby.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic.
I know it's late over at your place, so we're going to run really quick to this. So I want you to give a little introduction of what you do, especially to small business owners like us. And then I have a lot of questions for you, but we don't have enough time, so I'm going to jump right into the first one.
Awesome. So good evening, everyone. My name is Mary Kumari. I go by Mary Kim. I've been in technology industry for 20 years as an executive, systems integrator, and now I do product leadership. But specifically to Abby's question, I am a business consultant for small businesses. I work with Abby at Family Best Care. We've done a lot of work on compliance. I'll talk a little bit about that. I also work with Jeremy. I'm a consultant for Coactive Soft, and I can assure you that everything that he said that it does, it does. I've been so thrilled about Coactive Soft. I don't think I've ever seen a one-stop shop of a software where you get your HR management, staffing, document management, you name it. He showed it to you guys. It's so comprehensive. It's just fantastic to see such a wonderful application finally for healthcare industry. And of course, for those of you who are not in healthcare, Smart Program is the answer. So he has everything. He's done a great job. Abby has been testing it. He's been, she's been the guinea pig, and there's really no guinea pig about this because this thing ran like a well-oiled machine.
I appreciate that. And thank you, Mary, we would not have known about compliance if it was not for you. I would not have known much about HIPAA. I'm like, every time I hear HIPAA, I'm like, oh gosh, where's Mary Kim? So, and also you gave us information and you gave us directives that I did not think about. So I really want to honor you for that. So we have a lot of small business owners here, and they're gonna be replaying this today and tomorrow. Talk to us about the future of small business owners in connection with technology. What do we need to prepare now in case something else hit, another pandemic, or maybe we want to grow and develop? What do we need to prepare now for the future?
That's a great question. If there's anything that we all learned from COVID, is that technology should be the heart of every business. Doesn't matter if it's small, medium, or large businesses. It honestly doesn't matter if it's a one person or two person operated business. You got to have technology. And technology to me is basically having the extra hands when you need them. It helps you with automation. I've been following the comment and I see, like what Remo said, that she does things manually. I know Remo on personal level, so it's okay to use her as an example, but that you cannot afford to do that. Manual work causes errors, right? Manual work really slows down operation efficiency. Manual work costs you money, a lot of money, and that's why software like Coactive Soft is really needed for small businesses. But to answer your question, Abby, small businesses have to have technology. I don't think that's an option anymore. Maybe it was 10 years ago, but not in today's economy. You got to have technology. So what does technology do for small businesses? It's several things. I'm going to give you maybe 10 of the advantages of technology, of why you need the technology as a small business. Is number one, automation and workflows. You're not going to be able to automate stuff if you don't have technology. Correct. And that can be done in so many ways. If you're in regular, let's say, I'll just give an example, like landscaping or even HVAC. You have to have your workflow set up, and that's where you need something like what is called a customer relations manager. In healthcare industry, you probably don't need a CRM, you need a patient management software like Coactive Soft. That's something similar, but different. It's specific to the healthcare industry. So you have to make sure that you have automations and workflows, and that can only happen if you have technology. Number two, collaboration. There was a time when we all couldn't go to the office because of COVID. How are you going to collaborate with your employees and even patients? If you need them to sign something, you need collaboration software. That's where stuff like DocuSign comes in, HelloSign, Microsoft Teams, Google, and all that kind of stuff. You have to collaborate. You're not going to be able to do that without technology. Another reason why you need technology is to improve operation efficiency. That sounds like a big terminology, but it really is very, very simple. Every day you go to work, you have your routine. What you do every day. Do you call people for staffing? Jeremy just showed us that CoactiveSoft, you can manage staffing without having to pick up the phone and call people just by mass email. That's operation efficiency right there.
Yeah.
Or if somebody is at a customer's location or they're running late, I'm pretty sure the CoactiveSoft have the ability to where you can geocode to see where they are when they're clocking in and stuff like that. Again, operation efficiency. You don't have to pick up the phone and call people. You can watch the screen, see what's going on real time, or get notified with alerts, and you can have a plan B, plan C, or whatever. It could be anything, but the software is spitting out that information for you, and you as a business owner, you can act quickly before things get out of hand and have a backup or something like that. The next thing is data integration. And Jeremy did a great job of demoing how CoactiveSoft is able to work with other applications. Right now, I think you mentioned 3, and I know that there are plans of adding to the library. QuickBooks is a great one because you have to pay bills, invoices, and all that kind of stuff. If a customer has QuickBooks, it doesn't make sense to run CoactiveSoft, for example, and QuickBooks separately. That's what we call silos, data silos. You want to break that. You want those 2 applications to be able to, quote unquote, talk together, exchange data, and do it seamlessly to where your employees or office managers are not getting frustrated. Data is just, is getting spit out for them, and they're able to go ahead and run those invoices. So data integration is very important. You need technology to be able to do that. Data management. This is a big one, whether it's reporting, whether it's a KPI management, you need to be able to manage data, not just manage it, be able to make data-driven decisions. Look at the data. What is the data telling you? You may have Susie over here who is always out every Saturday, doesn't come to work, but you really need something that where you can review trends to see what's going on and stuff like that. You can use data to manage stuff like that. So again, technology, because once you look at your report or review the data tells a story. And as a business owner in a leadership position, you need to be able to look at the data to understand what is the data really telling you. It could be, for example, you may be doing very well in a specific zip code, but not very well in another area. So you can use that data to maybe staff more in the zip code where you're doing better. So data management is very important. And you can do that if you have the correct tools, technology tools in place. The other thing, and you mentioned a little bit about this, is staying in compliance. I cannot stress how big this is.
Yes, please.
In healthcare, you have to stay in compliance. And there's so many areas that you need to be cognizant of. The first one that you and I work together is HIPAA. HIPAA is Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. You really can't get certified in HIPAA, but you can stay in compliance. You do not want to get audited. Because when you get audited, they're going to make you go back 6 years and pull data for 6 years to show what you've been doing. So you need to be very careful with that. Stay in compliance. And if you have the correct technology tools, you can make sure that you are ahead of the game by ensuring all the audits are done, all 6 audits are done, just like we did for you, Abby. Another type of compliance that people need to be mindful about is what is called EVV, electronic visit verification.
Yes.
This is important, really important. And basically it's verify healthcare visits so patients are not, neglected. EVV, what I like about CoactiveSoft, you don't even have to go out there and buy another software because we can geocode stamp location when one of your workers go to a client's, home to visit them. We can tell what time they went there, the geocoded information. That is big. People pay a lot of money for that GPS coordinate, just that part. People buy software just to track their employees. You don't have to buy anything in addition to CoactiveSoft. It does everything. That's why I call it one-stop shop. The next thing is reporting. We talked a little bit about that for billing, KPIs, management of your employees, payroll, and all that good stuff. Streamline communication. Again, we talked a little bit about that. You can use mass communication, email, or mass email communication, text message. I believe we have that capability of texting from CoactiveSoft, right? Yeah, can do all that. And CoactiveSoft is not the only application that can do that. You can pick up the phone and text somebody via the phone, but why do that if you already are in the system and the system does everything for you? So communication is a really, really big thing, and you need technology to be able to do that. The last thing I'm going to talk about is reducing paperwork. You're reducing paperwork. Nobody likes paperwork. We need to get rid of paperwork. Manual work causes error. Manual work causes businesses a lot of money. I can't stress this enough. A lot of small businesses, they spend a lot of money on admin work, people filling paperwork every day, doing payroll every day, manually. That is no longer necessary. We can get rid of all that paperwork, manual work. We can replace an employee or 2 or 3 or 4 by using an application like CoactiveSoft. So technology is a big deal. It's not a good to have, it's a must have. If you're a small business, don't think that you cannot afford technology. In my opinion, you cannot afford not to have technology.
My goodness. You've answered all our questions with those 10 elements. And I can't stress enough about the aspect of having a system that has GPS capability. On Friday, we had a caregiver clocking in from a Starbucks 5 miles away.
See?
And
you are able to say that, no, you are not in a geocoded location. That's right there is stealing from the company.
Totally. I just texted her, I said, I take a latte with no foam. I see you at Starbucks. And she was just like, never mind. So it was just really funny for them to know, oh, I see you at Starbucks. He's like, man. Right. He was like, I feel like you're stalking me. I said, probably you just need to be at the client, home of the client, just to know that people can show up on time. Mm-hmm. And it's very calculated in a way that if they're a mile away, they're not going to be able to clock in. And if they do, you can be able to see them. Right.
And here's another thing, especially for those of you who are watching and they bill Medicaid. Medicaid is very, very, very stern about people billing for services that are not provided. Because what's going on, especially here in Florida, South Florida, people are billing for services like 26 hours in a day. Think about that, 26 hours of service in a day. First of all, that's dumb. If you're going to, commit fraud, at least make sure that it's not.
So it's very highly regulated area. Yeah. You're looking for fraud because you're duping the government out of money. So
exactly. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. So, and being able to even have the documentation and go back in case Medicaid was to push back on payment for a client, you can show them, okay, this person did clock in. This is the geocode. This is where they are. You have confirmation right there. So you are ensuring that you always get paid when you bill Medicaid because you have proof that your workers did go to where they were supposed to go.
I cannot, the thought of running a healthcare business without technology right now, it puts fear in my gut. Mm-hmm. Because not only is the system allowing you to stay in compliance, but also it keeps you organized.
And you're not to grow your honest too.
Don't have station.
Right. Because, as a business owner, the buck stops at you. You may be a great business owner, but the people who are working for you or with you, they may not always be people with integrity. Of course, we want to assume that everybody we're working with is supposed to do what they're supposed to, but there's nothing wrong with having extra checks and balances and extra point of check, so to speak, to make sure that things are being done like they should.
Wow. One more question about compliance. Somebody is asking, what do you think is the success rate of the business that uses technology and they have their document like trust and will in place? I don't know whether those are two questions or that is one question. So I'll let you go first, Mary, and then I'll let Steve answer the other side of that.
Okay, I don't have the actual numbers metrics of the success rate, but I would like to think it's pretty high. Think about it. If you're running a small business in ancient means, you don't have patient management software, you don't have compliance like we just talked about. Pretty much you're playing with fire, and
Right.
you know what it means. When you play with fire, you're gonna get burned. Let's
Right.
say, for example, you have 50 people working for you. You do not have patient management software or employee management software. And as we saw with Coactive Soft, it does both, patients and also employees. So you're getting all phone calls, people calling in, you don't have a backup, you don't know who to call, so you're losing out on money because if you don't have somebody to go check on a client, first of all, it could be very dangerous. Number two, you're spending all that time back and forth on phone calls or text messages. You're wasting a lot of time. The manual work that we just talked about, the inefficiencies. If you eliminate all that, that's money back to the business. You can scale your business, you can do other things to improve the efficiency, or you can even bring more caregivers to help with your business. So I like to say that the success rate is pretty high. And I apologize, I don't have the actual numbers, but based on my experience working with small businesses like yours and other small businesses in the service industry, I've never seen a small business that has all the correct tools in place that is failing. You just cannot go wrong with that. If you have everything in place like you should. Jeremy, what he showed us between Coactive Soft and QuickBooks, right there is a time saver. It's improving efficiency. So instead of hiring somebody to do QuickBooks accounting and run reports and go through an Excel spreadsheet and all that, it's integrated for you.
Oh, goodness. It saves you money, it increases your revenue, and if you can save money, you're saving a lot of time for yourself.
And headaches.
Yes. Steve, there is a question here for you. So actually it's one for Jeremy, but I'm gonna go to Steve first. If I want to build my own software, what kind of question is it? If I want to build my own software, can the trust cover that all by its own as an entity? Steve, are you there?
Yeah, I'm thinking about that. I mean, I don't think you want the trust doing that sort of thing. The trust can be you. You can own real property, you can have a sole proprietor, you can have a whole bunch of things in the trust. But as long as you're the trustor, trustee, and beneficiary, there's zero protection.
Yes.
It's fine for management, but if you're sued, there's no protection. So you really want to think about what is the purpose of the entity, the business. You may play around with an idea, but once you think you're going to have one, you want to create an LLC or some business entity that, and if you're going one track, an LLC is the best. If you're going another track, a C Corp's the best. If you're going another way, professional service corporations, an S is the best. So you create that entity, that's your protection. And then you can assign it into your trust so that it fits the overall plan. But the trust would not protect it.
Okay. Well, you see, that's exactly what we needed to know, because all we hear when we hear the trust, you hear is this umbrella of protection.
Yeah, people think a trust protects you from assets, from creditors, or even from estate taxes or from income taxes. It's illegal to have a trust shield you from income taxes. So they do a lot of stuff. They can't do everything.
Yeah,
but imagine if you had your business, whatever that business is. Let's take the lawn care business. So lawn care business, they do their thing, but then maybe you don't want to be lawn care / software developer, so you partner with Coactive Soft. We build the software, but you could have an LLC that owns that software. And then you could license that software from your lawn care business. So if something happens with your lawn care, they can't take away the intellectual property of your app. And so
Right, but I'm saying if you're doing lawn care in a trust or a sole proprietorship, you're
Right.
liable if your lawnmower hits someone or shoots a rock, and then you're liable. So you wouldn't ever want that to not be protected. So you protect the business, and then you could have a contract that's not in there, it could be separate. But you want the basic business to have appropriate protections.
I like that. Someone was asking about banks, and I can't find that question. It was about a bank, equity banks and trust. I can't find that question, but whoever asked that question, can you please post it again for Steve? It was about equity banks and
I can
can't-
BS, I can talk about banks and trusts until we get the question. So I mean, if you
Sure.
have a trust, you can have your bank account in the trust. If it's an irrevocable trust, there may be more rules about that. But sometimes you'll have a bank account in your name and you have a friend or a partner or spouse that has power of attorney or co-owns it. And then you want to pay on death to the trust because that's where you provide for kids and whatever. So it's always a little bit of a choice of management and beneficiary.
Okay.
I think the essence of this is that what we're talking about today isn't, do you want legal protection or software or business processes? The idea is, in order to really thrive in this situation, what we really need is to have all of that stuff working well together. And so, you know, as a business owner, if I go to Steve and I say, you know, I need protection for this, let's come up with a strategy so that I can have my business that does its thing, that is as protected as possible, that has a legal structure that lets me pass that on to my children. But I want this app that's going to let me grow my business, scale it beyond what I could do manually, that lets me delegate responsibility to other people so that those people can do that, but I still retain oversight over what they're doing. And it adds value to my business so that as my business grows, let's say I want to sell my business, I now have something that brings additional value. It's an additional asset for my business. I want to structure that, but I need it in a way where if that auditor comes, if that state compliance person comes, I can just click a button and it brings up the 6 years of reports for that client. I have all that information right there. If I go to Steve and he says, show me all of this information, all of that stuff is in the app. It's this plus this plus this. The sum is greater than all the parts.
Excellent. I can't find that question, Steve, so I'm asking Chris to post it right here. Do you have any final word for small business owners, Mary Kim?
Yes, I would say embrace technology, embrace it, but don't think that you have to do this alone. There are a lot of people like myself who are business consultants who can help you break it down into bite size, that way it's not too overwhelming. That's what we kind of did for Abby. When Abby and I started working together, she was like, I can't take it. I don't understand this HIPAA stuff because it's a lot. And we broke it down into things that were more manageable for her. And of course, you have people like Jeremy, who are very, very good in development. And Jeremy mentioned something that I hope that you guys caught. You can have a white label software. So if you don't like what Fulcrum is doing, or CoactiveSoft, or Microsoft Dynamics, you can work with a developer to have a software specifically white labeled for you. That's branding. And if you guys know anything about branding, it will take your company to the next level. So embrace technology. Technology can be expensive, but it doesn't have to be. You can do what is called a phased approach. For example, you start with phase A and say, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. I just wanna take care of my patient. And I'm using patients because you're talking about home health and healthcare industry. You can start with something small to meet your most immediate needs and then work on it. Keep scaling, keep adding until you get to where you want. Some of you have been asking about apps. Apps can be expensive, But if you work with a developer like Jeremy, you can start small again and do one thing, have goals, and then have milestones on when you want to meet those goals. There are some applications out there that are free, but we all know that free is not always the best. So I would say don't always rush to get the free application. I'm not saying that all of them are bad, but I'm saying first figure out what are your pain points, what is it that you're trying to accomplish, and then work with a reputable company like ActiveSoft or whoever you want and get those goals met. But it is possible, it can be done. Like I said, you cannot afford not to have technology. It's one of those things that in this day and age, it's a must have. You're not going to be sending a paper invoice to a customer. If you sent me a paper invoice, I probably will never do business with you again. I want you to invoice me electronically with a pay now button. That way I can click on my phone, pay, and get done with it. I don't have checks. I haven't seen checks in years. That's how people lose customers, because you're still stuck in the 90s. And even 2000 is too far gone. It's 20 years ago. So let's embrace technology. And remember, you don't have to do it on your own. That's my final shot. Or parting shot, I should say.
Excellent. I want to add something to that. If you want your own, as Mary was saying, your own brand, the technology that feels and looks like yourself, it doesn't always have to say ActiveSoft. Jeremy and his team can make that happen. Have a software that looks like Werimo Kimani, feels like Werimo Kimani. It talks about Werimo Kimani. It is all your brand, your colors, your feel, your sense, your skills. It will all look like you. And that can be your brand. We can put your brand in your software and exactly give you the feel and the aspect you're going for. Final word, Pastor Steve. Steve Walters, how are you calling Pastor Steve?
What do you want? A final word?
A final word, but somebody's asking about Wealth Management Bank. I don't know what that has to do with trust. They're not finishing the question, so sorry, I can't really tell you what they're trying to ask. About something about Wealth Management Bank versus the trust. I don't know. Sorry.
I don't know what Wealth Management Bank is. I wrote a book called Legacy Wealth Planning. Legacy estate planning. I don't know.
Read that.
People use the word legacy in things, whether they mean it or not. So I don't know. I don't know what the question would be.
Yeah. Thank you. Jeremy, do you have the final word? Steve, if that question comes back, Steve, I'll shoot it your way.
Sure.
Jeremy, do you have the final word?
I think for me, it's realizing that you don't, I think Mary said this, and I want to back that up. You don't have to do this on your own. And I've seen people, oh, there we go. Thank you, Steve.
Oh,
I've seen people who, I think it kind of goes back to that. There's a degree of you get what you pay for. And there are times when you can have an app, you can get this free app to do this and that free app to do that. And I've seen people where I keep track of my employees with the free version of this app, and I keep track of my finances with the free version of that app. And you can definitely do that. And that may be a thing that you use to get your business started. It starts to crumble a little bit as you're trying to copy things from one over into another, and where you don't have that integration. So I want you to bear in mind that can be a good solution as you're getting started, but as you want to grow your business and scale, definitely keep that in mind for ways to have that integration. I really like what Mary was saying about the focus on the priorities. As I talk with Family Best Care, they'll ask for 15 different features for things that they want. And yes, we could do any of those. We can do all of those things. We can do great magic. But what's your greatest pain right now? Let's focus on that. And so the concept of kind of a minimum viable product. What is the most painful thing that's going on in your world? Let's take away that pain. Then we'll focus on what's the next most painful thing. We'll focus on those things. As we do that, your business is going to become stronger, more reliable, and you can go from there.
I think I want to, for a lot of us that are in healthcare, you're in a different industry and you don't understand technology. I definitely would like you to have a call with Mary Kim. She breaks it down. And I always tell Mary Kim, talk to me like you're talking to your kids, because I definitely need to know what's going on. She breaks it down to you in an aspect that you understand. You might think that you need 5 different things. Mary Kim tells you that's not what your business needs in this phase of your business. Whether you talk to her for 1 hour or you talk to her once a month, I think you need a business consultant who is in technology and can see things with an eye that you can't see, who can be able to break things down that you don't understand. But at the end of it, as you get the benefit of not only having technology in your business, can you imagine selling your business when it already has an existing piece of technology? That is retirement. That is just living in Mexico right there. That is retirement. But having somebody who breaks it down, this is what you need at this time, at this season in your business, and this is how to go about it. And this is how much it might be able to cost you. Technology, it doesn't have to be expensive if you put your priorities in place. And having a platform like CoactiveSoft, where Jeremy says, these are the features that you need. We're going to tailor-make those so that they can fit your business now. And then they grow with you. We didn't know staffing can be a pain as it is right now. And Remo Kaman can attest to this, and anybody who has an adult family home, you can back me up on this. But having a software where your needs are shared with the caregivers and you don't have to call 5,000 people, that is what I call efficiency. And that is what I call success. If you can save time, if you can save your revenue, if you can save your resources, then you're creating a legacy, not just for you, but for your families and the generations to come. So if you need somebody to break down your ideas or to be able to grow your business using technology, I would definitely encourage you. I went to Mary Kim because I didn't know anything. And I was just like, this is what it is. And she was able to keep the priorities in place and put the other aspect of our business into compartments so that we know what is that next thing that we need. And Jeremy can be able to build what you need within your budget with the modules that they have. And don't forget, you need to protect your business. And that's why my friend Steve Walters comes in. If you have, it's like business is like giving birth. You push this baby, you give nutrition to this baby, you raise this baby. It is painful and hard work. And you lose a lot of friends along the way, by the way. You lose a lot of people along the way. As you develop and nurture this baby, make sure that which you've worked so hard for and you want to leave a legacy for your children, it is well protected. And with the lawyers that kind of know what they're doing, you want to make sure that's protected. I want to thank each one of you. Steve Walters, my man, thank you so much. Mary Kim, there will be not life without you. And thank you for fighting the battle to be here today. Jeremy, thank you for saving the life of our business. We won't be where we are, especially today, without what you've created for us. And if you have any questions, keep posting them. Share this with people that are in business and needs to hear this. Replay this, get this information. Information is key, and strategize. And get your next step from Mary Kim. That's the girl who's going to give you your next step. All right, hope you all have a good weekend. Merry Christmas, have a good holiday, and may God watch over you. Bye, everybody. Bye, Mary. Bye, Jeremy. Thanks, Steve. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.